I write hat of spoons, and we get
Hat of spoons.
a hat of spoons. This is why I'm in Hollywood.
Yeah. Eat your cereal, kids.
Did she say nice things about me? Because I will tase her if necessary.
Uh-oh.
I have the taser. We haven't had to use it in a long time. But
I said lots of nice things.
No, I said nice things about you too.
Oh.
That's gonna get on TV.
What?
That's gonna get on TV.
You go, boy.
Hey, could you...
Amanda, demonstrate. Spitballer 5000.
You see there's the toilet paper and you get a gallon of fresh spit, and then you spit in your nose, the little part in this thing, my jig, and then you spit in this thing of my jig, and then you spit right there, and then you blast it.
What do you think of that explanation?
Oh, it was very explanatory. How much did it cost?
It's only $99.99.
Oh my goodness!
Hi, welcome to my jacuzzi. Today my special guest is the executive producer of The Amanda Show, Dan Schneider.
Hi.
Now, you're the executive producer of the show?
Yeah, I am the executive producer and I'm the head writer.
You actually wrote the words you're saying to each other right now?
Yes, I actually wrote this whole conversation that we're having right now.
I see. Now, since you're the executive producer of the show, can I have a raise?
No.
Okay. How about I play the spaghetti?
Nah.
No?
I'm kidding, I'll have some spaghetti!
Hooray!
Bring the spaghetti! Alright!
Thank you. Bye-bye!
Bye-bye! Very good spaghetti. Excellent. Excellent.
Cut that out!
And the camera was.
That was amazing. That was one of the better things I've ever heard.
Hey!
Hi, what's going on here?
Nothing. You didn't cut out that part.
Why are you sitting on the floor of the set?
Because we are.
They are. Did you just bark?
Welcome to the Dan Schneider Files. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding this man's career, and a lot of people have spoken out against him. And for those of you who live under a rock, Dan Schneider, the man responsible for creating a slew of TV shows on the channel Nickelodeon from the 90s up to around middle of 2000s. If you're unfamiliar with his work, he did All That, Kenan and Kel, Guys Like Us, The Amanda Show, What I Like About You, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly, Victorious, Sam and Cat, Henry Danger, Games Sneakers, The Adventure of Kid Danger, and even more recently, the new reboot of iCarly, he was given creator credit only. In 2018, that was Dan Schneider's last really film involvement with Nickelodeon before they let him go. Nickelodeon opened an investigation on the man, which led to him being fired from Nickelodeon because in this investigation, Nickelodeon found that he was very, very abusive to his colleagues. Now, for almost 20 years, rumors and speculations kind of always just floated around, but until the last few years, a lot of this stuff has been solidified and backed up by a large sum of people, including a lot of the child actresses who were children and young teens at the time coming forward to talk about their experiences with Dan Schneider. But before we begin any further, special thanks to the sponsor of the channel today, DraftKings Casino. Do you love entertainment? I certainly do. Do you want access to over 800 casino games right now in the palm of your hand? Right now, brand new customers who sign up with the promo code Repzion will get their deposit matched dollar for dollar in casino bonus funds. Yep, you heard that right. DraftKings is matching all first-time casino customers' deposits dollar for dollar in casino bonus funds when they sign up using my promo code Repzion. They have over 700 slot games for you to choose from, including every type of assortment you can imagine. including some DraftKings exclusive, you'll never run out of fun. If it's not available in your state, you can check DraftKings Daily Fantasy app where you can win prizes all season long. But most importantly, DraftKings is reliable, it is safe, and it is secure. It's super easy to set up your own DraftKings casino account. If you want endless hours of entertainment, DraftKings has so many different ways to make watching sports more fun from the power of your own phone or from home. Support the channel, click the link, and use code Repzion at signup. So let's start with Jennette McCurdy, who recently released a book, memoir, called I'm Glad My Mom Died. Kind of a dark title, but in this she talks about her traumatic relationship with her mother, her struggle with anorexia, and her decision to completely quit acting. But when you go through this, you'll actually find that she also talks about Dan Schneider. But she has been making it known that what she endured on that show, what she was going through as a child actress, and the things that she was experiencing with Dan Schneider, an absolute pressure and jealousy and fear of retaliation, fear of being fired. What I need to mention is this. When you are a child star in Hollywood, specifically a teenager, how is a 14 or 15-year-old girl, if a director makes you do something that would make you uncomfortable, maybe even being considered highly inappropriate to do for a child show, being told that if you don't do this, you're going to be let go or you're going to be fired? I mean, let's just be realistic here. What can a 15 or 16-year-old girl do when she is a child star and the director is somebody who is very, very not just mentally abusive, but forcing these young teens to do things that they don't want to participate in because if they say no, their entire career is done and they're blacklisted. Blacklisting in Hollywood is way more common than people realize. One great example of this would be Brendan Fraser, who starred in The Mummy and had a very cool, awesome, amazing career in the later 90s and into the early 2000s. However, something happened. He died off. He disappeared for almost 15, 20 years. He completely just walked out of the public eye. And believe it or not, there was a reason for this. It's actually because he was SA'd, sexually assaulted, by a higher up in Hollywood. Yes, a male was hurt. A male was a victim of sexual assault. And when he spoke out about the shame and guilt and what he experienced through that, Hollywood blacklisted him. This is something that's currently ongoing with young teen stars. Even back in 2000s, Jennette McCurdy is one of many different examples we'll go through. Brendan Fraser. You know, and how many videos now have you heard me say hashtag abuse holds no gender? Because it doesn't.
On the outside, I was doing a lot of the performing, the tap dancing of like the smile and the showing up and landing on my mark. And I'm gonna just do what I need to do and be this, you know, happy-go-lucky Nickelodeon kid.
My name is Samantha Puckett. I'm from Seattle and I love fried chicken.
But inside I was hurting. It was painful. I was angry. I felt unsupported.
You pull back the curtain on child stardom. It is not a pretty picture.
Not as I see it, no.
At just 15, Jennette McCurdy was one of the most recognizable child stars on television, playing Sam Puckett in Nickelodeon's hit show iCarly.
Where'd my straw go? Here.
To her millions of fans, she was known as the funny BFF. But she says behind that bubbly on-screen persona, nothing about her real life was funny.
For you, what were the pitfalls of child fame?
You're playing an adult's game. You're in an adult's world, and you don't recognize that. You're incapable of being on that level, but you are confused and you think that you are. And I think it really leads to stunted personal development.
Her personal struggles eventually prompting her to abandon acting altogether.
You say, quite frankly, that this was never your dream. Stardom was never your dream. Whose dream was it?
My mom's. I think she wanted me to have a better life than she had, but I also think her approach was very unhealthy and informed by her own lack of self-work. And she lived vicariously through me.
Now, when Dan Schneider was released, this is all Nickelodeon had to say, and boy, was it probably one of the more vague, hey, you're fired type of statements out there. Following many conversations together about the next direction and future opportunities, Nickelodeon and our longtime creative partner, Dan Schneider, have agreed not to extend the current deal. Now, in McCurdy's book, she says this: the creator, Dan Schneider, is doing the thing that I've heard from my co-stars he does with every new star of a show that he's making. He takes you under his wing and you're his favorite. Now, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you are a teenager, right? And your boss or a 30, 40 plus year old man is saying that you're his personal favorite at a job. Absolutely no adult, no matter if they're a director or producer, should be telling teenagers that you're my personal little favorite. Something important that I have to mention here is that McCurdy denied an offer of $300,000 from Nickelodeon so she would not talk or reference the creator Dan Schneider in any capacity. So obviously the question is, why would a network, Nickelodeon, offer somebody $300,000 to keep silent about their experience on set with a potentially dangerous or abusive person? I mean, obviously Dan Schneider was fired. Nickelodeon found it best to get rid of him in 2018 for an obvious reason, so there has to be some truth to what was said in regards to his inappropriate conduct. What the fuck, McCurdy writes. Nickelodeon is offering me $300,000 in hush money not to talk publicly about my experience on the show, my personal experience with the creator's abuse. This is a network with shows made for children. Shouldn't they have some sort of moral compass? Shouldn't they at least try to report some of an ethical standard? Multiple articles reached out for comment on Dan Schneider, and obviously nothing was said, and it was absolutely ignored, as anyone would expect. Dan Schneider also won an achievement award, the Lifetime Achievement, for making such successful children's shows.
He's created so many amazing shows, and tonight we've got actors representing all of them right here. Stars from All That, The Amanda Show, Zoe 101, and iCarly.
Dan, we love you. Thank you so much, dude. So, it is our great honor to present the first ever Nickelodeon Lifetime Achievement Award to a man who has been making all of us laugh for the past 2 decades.
Put your hands together for the one and only Dan Schneider. All right. Woo. Try not to cry. Well, thank you so much.
So one of the things that you'll notice is that Miranda Cosgrove and McCurdy were not on stage. McCurdy has spoken out against Dan Schneider, but Miranda Cosgrove has not. And it's speculated, alleged, that the reason that those two didn't show up, despite them being the show headrunners, is because they were trying to make a statement silently. And now, given, you know, McCurdy's statements on Dan Schneider, the creator, and they tried to pay her off, I absolutely believe that it was intentional. Dan Schneider denied ever having behaved inappropriate with anyone at work and said he did not leave Nickelodeon on bad terms. This attributed his departure to a, quote, period of exhaustion. He called the online discussions surrounding his show's use of feet, quote, ridiculous, and added the comedy was totally innocent. So what exactly is this comedy that is in reference to? Well,
Have you ever said something, like a sentence, and thought to yourself, wow, like, I bet nobody else on earth has ever said those exact words that I just said? That happens to me a lot. So now, just for fun, I'm gonna say 3 sentences that I bet not one person has ever said before in the history of mankind. Sentence number 1. Oh man, my uvula got stuck between that hamster's toes. See? That could never happen, because your uvula is that swingy thing in the back of your throat right here. So there's no way you could get it stuck between a hamster's toes. Sentence number 3. I'm soaking wet! Quick, somebody bring me the ocean! No one would ever say that. Why? Because if you were soaking wet and you were upset about it, the last thing you'd want is for somebody to bring you the ocean. Because the ocean is even more wet than even the wettest person in the world. Have you ever tried to get your whole big toe in your mouth? Check this out. Sometimes I wonder if you can get juice from a potato. Is it possible for a teenage girl to drink water upside down? I'm thirsty. It's not possible. This has been me in a video. Come on, give up the juice. Can you imagine what life would be like with hippopotamus teeth?
And
and there tends to be a lot of weird jokes involving him. One of you guys sent me this screenshot, and there is a little part in this episode where Kat talks about her brother, and she says, "One time my brother found a vacuum cleaner in our church basement. He took it home and now he keeps it in his room." And then Trina replied back to her and said, "Well, you should call the church and tell them he has it." And Kat replied, "Oh, well, they wouldn't want it back." I guess pretty much suggesting that her brother uses this like freaking vacuum on his, like, and I'm like, ew, God, what type, like, it's not even a funny joke. And that's something I've noticed throughout Victorious. Like, some of Dan's, like, shows, they have very, very clear signs of just, like, disgustingness. But, like, this show, Victorious, has it all throughout in small and subtle ways, suggesting bad behavior to young minds and, you know, probably trying to keep the adults entertained with these jokes that are just not even really funny. One character I feel like we don't talk about enough is Andre. And actually, in this scene right here, you're going to see that he is showing off his foot. And this character, who I'm not supposed to say her name legally, will come up and she will rub his foot and compliment it. And if you guys have been around on the channel for a minute, you would know why I cannot say her name. But let's just go ahead and watch this. So he's showing off his feet. There's already a bunch of people rubbing it, and then she comes up and she's like, "Okay, I want to touch it." And watch.
Dang, dude, that's some soft footage.
Oh God, it's actually so awkward to watch. Like, even the guy, like, to the side, look at him, like, just rubbing with his fingers. Like, imagine filming this. Like, she can't even look at it. It's so awkward. Ugh.
I mean, really? Let's be serious here. It's a nice.
Ugh. She's like, "Oh, really? Come on, let us be serious here. That's a nice foot." She said, "Wow." Like, what? It's just such an awkward thing to have them, like, obsessing over feet like this. This random chick who asks him to smell her foot. And at first, he is, like, not about it. He's like, of course I don't want to. And then his, like, conscience is, like, telling him to just do it. And he does. And it's just so weird to see. Like, if I was this actor, I would just feel so uncomfortable getting so close. Like, he's literally got his nose, like, up on this woman's foot. And, like, imagine just wanting to have that scene in and just be like, cut, because I do feel like sometimes they have to redo a couple of the scenes to make sure they get the perfect cut because they want to make it look suggestive. And here is a moment, sorry guys, we're just jumping all around, but here is a moment I had to include that I did not include last time, where literally her character Victorious is over here using a bow and arrow with her foot. And again, it's just another use of feet in a way that I'm sure Dan was really excited to incorporate. And I don't understand how other writers sit in the room while they do this and they just allow, like, who thought that this was going to be funny or a good idea?
Young kids obviously are not going to see what this is, but this is highly not just uncomfortable, and there's no way on fucking earth that you're going to tell me that this is innocent, that this is just totally harmless, that it's innocent comedy. No way. Absolutely. No. Between the shots, between the objects that she's holding, what she's being told to do, sticking her finger in her mouth, her feet in her mouth, that, you know, the whole conspiracy theory is that, you know, that's why Nickelodeon had the foot back in the day. It was because Dan Schneider had a foot fetish. But believe it or not, there's actually a bunch more footage of things like this, of specifically involving feet. And I'm not one to speculate on conspiracy theories, but I believe it. I absolutely believe it with how much footage that there is out there, and these young actresses, now that they're older, have actually spoken out against and said, hey, I was looked at very inappropriately and made to do things that a child shouldn't be made to do on television. You know, back in the day, us kids, we didn't think anything of this. But as somebody who has kids, I see things differently, and I'm older, I see things in a completely different light. No 7 or 8-year-old's going to see an issue with this because they're not been exposed to, because they're not grown up yet. They don't see things for what they are when you have adults making kids do this on camera. Are you really going to sit there and tell me that there's nothing sexual about this, that this is not being sexualized or pushed inappropriately? We already know there's a circle of abuse that surrounds all of Hollywood. There is a ring in Hollywood. Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein. A lot of this stuff is right in front of us and we don't see or recognize it for what it actually is. Ariana Grande is a child on a TV show designed for children. And you will not convince me that anything that we just witnessed was appropriate. Explain to me why you would have a young girl put a finger down her throat and gag. What purpose does this serve? And believe it or not, folks who have actually worked with Schneider has actually come forward wanting anonymity, saying that they viewed his chumminess with his young actors as awkward and odd for a powerful middle-aged showrunner. Several recalled that he often spent time during the workday interacting with young fans online and after work texting child actors about silly matters of teenage internet life. I'm just trying to wrap my head around why any 30, 40-year-old man would need to be texting teenagers. And as somebody who's a stepfather to 3 girls, if I found out that a 30, 40-year-old man was texting and having full conversations, as no matter how innocent, or if it's just about video games or teenage interests or whatever it be, that's not okay. That's not acceptable. I don't see in any context of why a 30, 40-year-old man needs to be texting teenagers. Minors. Going back to McCurdy, she also alleges that he tried to give her alcohol when she was underage and unsolicited shoulder massages. Why is an adult man giving teenagers massages? What is the context behind that? What's the excuse, Dan? That is not appropriate. At the end of the day, I don't believe that Dan Schneider is a good person. There's a lot of inappropriate, creepy undertones that has been documented with him even walking around sets, filming with his own camera these child stars and trying to make them laugh and just... It's a very weird dynamic, and it's one that isn't normal, but I feel like at the time, that was normalized. I do feel like in this day and age, we are able to see things a lot better than what they were, but that also, we still have a responsibility to see this stuff and call it out for what it is. I'm of the belief that once you have more than 3 people, all reiterate and connect each other's stories and say, hey, this happened, this happened, this happened, I experienced the same sort of behavior. Almost all of these actresses have come out and said some sort of statement in regards to how uncomfortable they were made to feel when they were in these child shows by Dan Schneider. You know, one of the reasons why all this film production happened in the state of Florida is because Florida didn't have specific child labor laws set up, thus overworking these actresses and actors, pressuring them, making them uncomfortable, on top of having their parents live vicariously through their own sons and daughters. Creates a recipe for disaster and an absolute mental health and struggling process for these young teens not to be able to experience a normal teenage life.
I mean, I don't think young people should be allowed to be famous. Like, if there's somebody who could come in and say, no, they can't, they're not mentally capable of handling this, I think that should happen. Because it just, you know, the thing with former child stars having breakdowns makes so much sense to me, because I think the world that you're thrust into kind of, like, puts you right in line to have a breakdown.
So what do you guys think? What's your thoughts on Dan Schneider? I believe that in the coming years, more stuff, despite them already being a heavy mountain, is going to come out. And I hope one day Miranda Cosgrove says her piece about Dan Schneider. Because I'm of the belief that when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, when you have majority of these people who experienced and grew up with this person, was on set with them day after day, all speaking up forward, there is truth to it. This isn't a situation where it's just one person saying a bad thing. And even other actors, young boys on the set, have even come to defend some of these actresses that experienced this sort of treatment. It's insane to me. Nobody deserves to have a childhood like that, and the permanent effects and trauma that they go through because they experienced this, they have to live with that for the rest of their lives. It's an injustice. It's wrong. It's fucked up. Anyways, those are my thoughts. All of my socials are linked down below. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next week for another video.